Welcome to Conversations in Between the Realms, a podcast where the mystical meets the everyday. Join Amanda Nova and Beth Renov each week as we dive into the profound journey of awakening, sharing our experiences, insights, and the lessons that guide us toward our divine purpose. Together, we awaken and guide our souls and others, exploring the magic of living in the 3D while staying connected to the higher realms, embracing the challenges, and celebrating the growth. You've been guided here for a reason. Trust in the journey and let the unfolding begin.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year and welcome back to Conversations in Between the Realms. I'm Amanda Nova and I am here with Beth Renov. Today, we're going to be talking about ancestral trauma and how it gets stuck in your energy field, in your body, all the things. So how is your beginning of the year going, Beth?
It's good. It was a very much needed rest, and I feel like it went at a good pace. So I feel pretty refreshed. I'm ready for the new year. I mean, I definitely was feeling like what you posted, was definitely in pain and definitely super anxious the past few days. And what you said about the pets,
Oh,
Iggy
yeah.
has been a love bug and just on top of me and abnormally overly
Yeah.
lovey. But I'll take it.
I know. Well, I stole a word from you because you said to me yesterday, uncharacteristically friendly. And I stole that word because I was like, that's
Yeah.
exactly how was being. And, it's so interesting because I do feel like there's so much gold, beautiful, really bright energy for this year. I do think a lot of really good things are going to come up. But I had said this in one of my the video I did right to start the year, just because the year changes over, it doesn't mean that the date happens and then it's
Right.
oh, all of a sudden we're in new energy. That doesn't happen. We're still
Right.
dealing with releases that were happening the end of December. We're still dealing with emotions that were coming up and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, what was coming through with this, we had a huge surge of energy. And it was so funny because what was coming through was these old people and things coming up from 10 years ago and all this stuff. And I got a text from somebody that I wrote off, loathe, literally somebody I never expected to get a text from that I haven't spoken to in years. And I got a text from them and I was like, oh my God. I was like, okay, I guess this is I guess I'm right.
Releasing.
Validation.
Yeah. I feel like I've had old stuff come up. I've had a lot of clarity, I feel like. But it's related to old stuff that I don't necessarily I don't know if I'd say it's coming up versus I can see it now. I think it's always been there.
Yeah.
And it's definitely ready to be released. Last night I had such a release and outlet of all these things of why am I holding on to this and just such awareness of this doesn't serve me anymore. I really just am so present in why this coping just doesn't work for me anymore. And I was really honestly grateful that I had it when I needed it. But now I'm I really genuinely don't need you. I don't even like you.
Yeah.
I don't hate you. I don't hate myself for, using it. But I was just I really am in a place where I'm ready to let go and say goodbye. And I did this goodbye letter and it felt so good. I feel I feel really re-energized today.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that was the other thing that was that I felt strongly. Yeah. These revelations, clarity, forgiveness of yourself, of others, and getting closure, finally being okay,
Yes.
even if I don't necessarily make up with this person or, remedy whatever it is, the pattern or whatever it is that's coming through, or you're realizing, it's okay to also just part ways with it and make peace with it. I think that's like, it's like
Right.
forgiveness and peace and being like, okay, acceptance, moving forward. So I feel like there's a lot of that. And I think over the next few weeks, as we're sort of like tying those things in a bow and we're kind of like closing them up and it's going to take a little bit of time, then we're really like transitioning into this like brighter energy of new opportunities, exciting things coming through, because we're going to have so much more room for that now that we're taking all these other things out.
Absolutely. Like, and I've seen everywhere. Also, like the year of the snake has not ended. And I
Mm,
think that's in February. So
yeah.
we're really at the tail end where the shedding is really
Hmm.
coming undone. And I think that's why maybe we're feeling more of the shifts now versus like December.
Yeah.
And not to say people who felt it in December isn't valid. It's been a year of it. But if you feel like I haven't felt that shift or I'm feeling it more now, that's probably why.
Right.
Is
Right.
it's still, and I think there's a really, at least for me, there's a huge planet going like change that is going to end like a 14-year cycle for me
Hmm.
that I just feel ending.
Yeah.
And I'm already seeing just like such positive energy and so much movement,
Hmm.
and it's just amazing that astrology and Chinese New Year, all that stuff really do coincide. Like
Yeah.
this energy is real.
Yeah, it
You
is
kind of can't
real.
deny it.
It is, it's so crazy. And, what's so fascinating to me, which relates to what we're going to talk about today is like, all these things that impact us. I always call it Pandora's box because there's so many different things that we're holding on to. And it could be, ancestral. It could be from this lifetime. It could be from, past life. Like there's all these different things that we're sort of like holding on to. So when there's like a transit happening or when there's a full moon or whatever is going on, it's like you don't even know like what's coming to the surface half the time. Like we don't even know what we're working through
Right.
95% of the time. And there are so many things. Like it's just not skin deep. Like it is so deep and like it's just really it can be exciting as you kind of like start to dig in and start to be like, okay, like I'm doing this and
Yeah.
this is happening because, my great great grandfather in, Italy was doing this. Like, I think it's so fascinating to kind of figure some of that stuff out.
It is. And it like really helps to make sense of certain behavior patterns, especially within the family, but also within yourself. And, like people who a lot of money things
Mhm.
are really ancestral. And it's feeling like, oh, I'm never going to have enough.
Mhm.
And it's like, you do though,
Yeah.
or you don't. But,
Especially with
oh,
immigrants, like, especially with immigrants,
yes,
like a lot of that fear.
right. Right. And I mean, we are a country pretty much of immigrants, so, unless you're Native American, you're an immigrant. So, like, some people have been here for centuries, that's fine. But I think it's that somewhere along the line, especially immigrants, is like you came for a reason, right? And most likely it wasn't just because, well, we want to change, right?
Yeah.
So it was probably because it was really hard to make money. You were facing persecution. There was like real danger, so that's a lot of unsafety for people. They don't understand why they constantly are so hyper vigilant and always looking behind their backs, always needing to be a step ahead. That's probably from like generations back. And you don't understand why you operate that way, but they like kind of pass that down to you to keep you safe. But again, like I was talking about, maybe it's a coping mechanism you just don't need anymore. And you can be grateful they pass that down for you. It's like passing down energy to you
Hmm.
through your lineage and imprinting it into your
Yeah.
DNA, which is intergenerational trauma. And you don't have to keep that though. And self-awareness is half the battle, but it's and really getting introspective of like, why do I behave this way? Like, what is this? But a lot of like that's not really something you can do on your own. And yes, through therapy you can absolutely do it, but like we were talking yesterday, I'm like, I can't be like to a client, "Hey, I'm seeing like
Yeah.
your ancestors. I see it in your solar plexus. You have this." And how I see it often is like old school film, but it's gold.
Right.
And I just see it like unraveling, and you see scenes. So like for me, that was my instinct or my ping that it's intergenerational trauma. It comes back through the ancestral line.
Yeah, it's so fascinating because I was gonna, as you were talking, I was thinking about the DNA, and I was like, that's exactly how it gets passed down. It's literally like through the cellular DNA. And I mean, especially like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the maternal line is so much stronger sometimes because you're literally like passing down in the womb. Like, I mean, that's like so much, especially from women to, like mother to daughter. Like, I think that's why
Women,
those
yeah.
bonds sometimes are like so intense because you're like literally like with the womb space, it's so intense with the energy, with the cells and all of that. But it is in our DNA that's being passed down. It's why when we talk about like how the muscles, the skin, the blood, that all holds memory and it all holds stories. Like it
Mm-hmm.
holds the generational stories, it holds the ancestral stories. And to your point, you don't have to keep that story because it's not yours. It isn't yours. Like you did not come from a warring country and come here to try to survive. Like that's not your story. But
Right.
I do think like you have to become aware of it to clear it, to understand. And it does need to be cleared. And I feel like
Yeah.
it's kind of like the one of the next steps like deeper. Like I think people start getting into the spirituality and they start getting into all of these things, and they get into manifestation and they get into tarot cards, and they kind of do their like entry steps, right? They're like intro. I do feel like the ancestral stuff is like a little bit deeper, right? Like it's like Akashic records, and then it's like ancestral. Like it is a little bit deeper on the journey because I do think it could be a little bit overwhelming for people. Do you agree?
Yeah, because it really hits home because it's so connected to you. Past lives, not that they don't affect you. Like I know for me, it made so much sense, but I wasn't connected to it in the same way as like my intergenerational trauma. And I'm Jewish. Like we didn't come from good stories. Unfortunately, I'm not saying there was never good times, but my family, particularly like in the like more near generations, they did not come here because things were great. There's a lot of uh persecution, like my grandfather's family, they were burning houses down, shooting you at point blank. My and everybody else's family, like they happened to come here because of that persecution too, but their family stayed and they all died in the Holocaust. So it's like I now feel it. Like I remember when the war in Ukraine broke out, like my grandpa
Oh
was
yeah.
from Kiev. So I just started like seeing what his family went through. It was not what was happening, but I had that visceral feeling of like danger,
Yeah.
and I was so connected to it. And, obviously Holocaust stuff I'm so deeply connected to. And anytime like there's persecution of Jews anywhere, like, and the anti-Semitism that's rising right now. It really like I feel it in my bones, and it's just like you have like this alert that goes off that non-Jewish people don't have, but particularly my family is like, oh my God, like I need to keep safe, but I'm perfectly safe here.
Right.
Like
Right.
my life's not in danger.
Right. Well, something that came up while you were speaking that I think is really interesting. Like, so a lot of times when I see people and past lives come up, a lot of family things come up in terms of like having relationships with your children or your brothers or sisters or even your parents or even grandparents where there have been several lifetimes where people have played different roles. So you might have had a different lifetime where you were actually one of those relatives, which I know is like
Right.
really funky, but like I do believe that like my daughter was one of my like great
Yeah.
grandmothers. And and she says things sometimes and I'm like she says so, like she's always like, I held you
Yeah.
when you were a baby, and I'm like, what do you mean? what do you mean? Like, always, she says crazy stuff. And I'm like, okay. Like, she's like, let me hold you, baby. Like, and I'm like, what do you mean? You're the baby. She like treats me
Yeah.
like she's like my great grandmother. Like, and I'm pretty sure that like there's something there. So like, and I get that a lot of
Yeah.
like, you're coming back in to like, do this again, or like restore, like, break
Right.
contracts and get second chances. So it's almost like multi-layered, because there's this generational ancestral, but it almost is also past life stuff, if that makes sense. Like, you might have
Yeah.
also been in one of those wars. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, actually, Annie, when I did my past life, like Akashic Records with her, there was a lifetime that it was definitely my family, because how she described it was exactly like my brother's very into genealogy. So we know like our family like going back all the way, and exactly the time frame my family was this like higher like more elite, like you weren't like, it was somewhere in Italy, I forget where. Um but I can't like describe what we were, but we were noble. I want
Hmm.
to say that a noble family, but something happened to the parents. Like it was exactly, she like brought up exactly what had happened in my family, and I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I was like a past version of my family.
Yeah, it makes so much sense, because especially as you think of just like, you know, reincarnation, right? Like, the way that I see things is like, we come in and we are like, okay, you're going to play this role and I'm going to play this role, and we're going to like,
Right.
let's go, and we're going
Right.
to do it. So I do think that like, you do have this like family of souls that you kind of continue to do stuff with. So I think we kind of come in repeatedly with some people, or we try to mend things that happened. So I mean, that makes total sense. And I don't know why we pick the same people all the time, but
Right. It's like you and Rob like have ancestral history together because you've been in different lives
Mhm.
together. And I really believe, like, I was just talking to my friend Amalia, and I feel like her and her wife met, like Amalia particularly. I saw her in the dog park like one day, and I guess she had just moved to Jersey City. I'm like, I know you. Like, I don't know why I was like, it was like a laser beam. I'm like, I know you. And I just like had to go over and talk to her. And I am friendly, like I was that person. But I was like, you're gonna be my friend.
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah.
just like completely new. And she's like, and we said to each other, you feel like home.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden I saw this past life where we were gay rabbis together.
Oh yeah, that's
Like we
so
couldn't
funny.
be gay, but we were in a shiva together, and her and Anne, she did a past life with Annie, and that life came up. It's really interesting that like there are just some people, and like we're good friends now,
Yeah.
so it's like they're meant to come into your life in different ways. And it's so interesting that Rob and you always come, like you might not always be the female,
Mhm.
or he might not always be the male, but you're always together. Like sometimes you could be sister and
Mhm.
brother, or mother and daughter, father and son, like whatever it is, but your souls are like always
Right.
together. And I really think that's another form of ancestral lineage, maybe not trauma,
Right,
right?
right. Yeah, no, 100. It's kind of like, it's contracts, like, right? Like, that's soul contracts that you're
Yeah,
making, right? Like, they're not all negative. Like, some of them are negative, where you're
right.
like, taking a contract of suffering, or, a contract that relates to a certain feeling, or, something like that. But there's also, I think, contracts of love, where I think that
Yeah.
or contracts of relationship. I think there's all different kinds. And so, I mean, that makes total sense to me. And I mean, it impacts us today, because it impacts the things that we feel in our body. So it impacts us on a physical level, not just with, the literal, which is like disease, right? Things that are actually coming up from a, genealogy perspective, but also, pains in the body, things that kind of get stuck. It also impacts the way that we do things. So you were saying like about money, right? if you are on this journey and you are having issues with your career, issues with money, or issues with relationships, figuring out some of these patterns in your ancestral lineage or trauma and unpacking that can help you clear it, release that story so that you can then start fresh. And so that makes it really life changing, I think, because then you can let it go. It
Absolutely.
might be impacting you and you don't even know.
Right. Like for me, I never could understand, like with food, I'm really weird. Like I don't love to share. It's not that I don't love to share. Like I will buy you your own. Like I am happy to do that, but I'm like I always need enough. And I've never not had enough, like and I kind of like teased it out in therapy, and I realized like that comes from like generation upon generation. Like my grandparents didn't have, and even when my mom was born, they didn't, they were very poor. So it's really just ingrained in me that like I need to have my own. I need to make sure I have enough to eat. And that's also part of the coping mechanism I was talking about before is like I don't need this,
Right. Right.
It's like and then I create this weird relationship with food that I just like no longer need, So it's like understanding where those weird things come from. And I will say money, I think, is the biggest because I think so many people don't feel worthy of money, but it's also that they had such a lack of it
Mhm.
that there's also this contract that maybe wasn't consciously made in any lifetime or in any ancestral line that is like it's like a core belief of I'm not going to ever have enough
Mhm.
money. And you pass that down as well. And that's not your story either.
Right.
You have opportunity. We are in a place, I'm not saying every single person, around the world, but certainly here, you have an opportunity to make money. Like it's just feeling deserving of it and figuring out a way to do it. Doesn't mean you're going to be a billionaire or a millionaire, but you can have money and not live this life of scarcity and lack all the time.
Right. Right. And a lot of that is fear. It's that fear of lack. It's that fear of it being maybe taken away from you. It's because of all those things that they lived through. And it's also that fear of like, I have to work so hard to earn money, right? Like there's that whole like hustle thing that also comes, especially like I say, like, immigrants. Like I think of like more immigrants in like the recent times, like in our more recent generations, like our grandfathers
Right.
generations, like that came
Right.
from
Yeah.
countries and stuff. Like I think of my grandfather coming from Italy and coming here, and he in Italy owned a deli, they owned like a butcher shop, and like they were like a well-to-do family in Italy, and then came here and like was like sweeping floors, right? And like had to then like work. I mean, there's people in other countries too who are like doctors, right? In countries, and they come here and they like
Right.
drive cabs, right? Like, I mean, these are real things that
Yeah.
happen. And so, and it's like this idea of like, if I'm going to come here, I'm going to make it. I'm going to prove to my family that like I came here and I'm going to make it. So there's like this it takes hard work to earn money that gets ingrained. And so, like, we're kind of like battling then, like, at least for me, like battling, like, I don't have to work this hard to make money. It doesn't have to be so hard. Like, why
Right.
does it have to be so hard? And it's because that was what has been in me is like, you have to work hard to make money.
Right. And I think it's also it becomes the core belief is like if I don't work hard then I don't deserve money.
Hmm.
So, and working hard then was more like the physical
Hmm.
and like putting in like burnout kind of hours. Like my grandpa too sold apples on the street during the depression. I think he was like 11 years old, and that turned into a fruit importing and exporting business. So it's like they were just a different breed,
Yeah.
I think, and they were really hardworking, and my grandfather was so proud. Like he was such a prideful person, and he just wanted to make their like everybody else's lives better. But that's a really hard standard to live
Yeah.
up to. He worked till he was 92 years old. Like, I want to like retire. So I like really want to make money. But in my head, I'm like, if I don't do that, if I'm not constantly traveling, working 100 hours a week, like I'm not gonna ever make that. And I don't deserve it if I don't put in that enough
Right.
like energy and effort.
Right. Yeah. And it creates that air of like, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. And it brings all of that stuff forward. And I do think, finding it and addressing it does help you to let go and move forward. And I
Yeah.
just think and I also would argue too that like it's part of our journey here to figure that out. It's part of our journey here to learn these things, remember them, and unravel them. Like that's part of the human experience. Like you come here as a light being and you're kind of trying to figure all this stuff out. And I think that people that don't do that aren't meant to do that. Like I don't think that those are the people that are like they're not
Right.
meant to. So if you're here and you're listening to this and you're interested in doing this, like it's because that's something that you're meant to do and there's probably something there for you to discover.
Right. Absolutely. And I think it's wanting to go deep and understand yourself and realizing like where am I blocking myself, but it's not necessarily coming from me, and it's not really going to be something you can do on your own. I feel like that's why we're good is because I can point it out. I can clearly see it, but I don't know how to remove it. Like you remove it, So it's really interesting that it is such deep spiritual healing, but you do need like
Yeah.
practitioners, like it's really hard to overcome intergenerational trauma on your own without a therapist to like feel safe. Here it's like I don't know anybody else. Maybe you can do it on your own, I don't know, but it's really helpful for someone else to like see it.
Yeah.
Like if I just don't think you have clarity and you're too close to it,
Right. Right.
so you don't see the full
Yeah.
picture. I think it helps when someone's outside of you and they can be like, oh, well, this is here, right? What's going on here? And like for me, I'm able to see it in a way of like maybe a family member will come through and then I'll get a hit of like where I feel it in my body, and then I'll see either the gold film or like a gold string. It's some sort of line that lets me know it's an ancestral line.
Mhm.
So like for me, it was really helpful. I haven't actually been to anybody who could really do that for me,
Well, that's what
so
I said
I
to
think it's
you.
more that I've been doing it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you're the only person I really like that I know who like really does that. I don't know. Like we were talking about this yesterday. Like I don't know if I see them. Like, and maybe because I'm seeing past lives, and maybe that is what's happening. But I also don't see past lives the way that you see them. So like it's like because like gifts are
Right.
different. So like I
Right.
don't see them on like on like a reel of film. Like to me, it's like all of a sudden I'm like in a war and I feel like I'm there and I'm kind of like seeing it
Yeah.
that way. So it's like I'm not really like watching it. It's almost like I'm experiencing it. So it's like if I'm like, let's say I'm in like the woods, I'm like, I become the person and I'm like running or something like that. So it's like I'm not watching it. So it's tough because I don't know how to differentiate that. So I feel like I have to like play with it.
So I see it like you do. I'm more of like an observer there, but I'm in the scene.
Mhm.
How I know it's ancestral is all of a sudden randomly I'll just see a picture of film aside from that.
Okay.
So it's like it's not the actual like sometimes I just hear things like it's like it's not hearing like hearing someone speak. It's just like kind of like the voice in my head, the
Right. Yeah.
narrator, and and they'll tell me they're here or they'll tell me where it's coming from, and or I'll be an observer in the scene. That's usually how it
Mhm.
happens. But then if I get a flash like totally separate of like a gold string or this film coming out, but it's film, like I could see pictures on it. That's not where I see it. But It's not like I'm watching a movie. It's just that I see physical film,
Okay.
like from a camera,
Okay.
and I'm like, oh, okay, that's like an ancestral line. So it looks exactly the same as if it was a past life, but there's that picture that's like, hey, we're that, or there's a person coming through that's like, no, 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 this is
Okay.
like from my life.
Interesting.
Yeah. Or a picture of the person,
Yeah.
or just a ping that it's a grandparent. It never comes in the same way. It's really different every single time. So it's not like there's this like method every time. Every time it's going to be different how I know.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is claircognizance.
Yeah. Yeah, which we were talking about. I mean, we've done a few episodes, I think, on talking about the different gifts and the clairs. And I just think, like, with claircognizance, it's just so hard to tell, right? Because you just know things. So you're like,
Yeah.
I just know that this
Right?
is past life
Exactly.
versus ancestral. But like, yeah, I don't think of that, but it does make sense because like I do feel like for a lot of time, like for a lot of people, I will be like, oh yeah, like, this was happening and it's your son, and there's like the connection there for you guys. So
Mm-hmm.
like I do think that's like there, but not in the same way that you do it. And I think, yeah, I think you're exceptional at it. And I think if anybody is curious about
Thank you.
digging in there, you should definitely go see Beth and go do it. I think it really can be such a game changer. And it's also really cool and interesting. And if you don't remember things, like you can ask your
Yeah.
parents afterwards or, ask family members. Just really, it's really fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, it is. And I would have to say like mediumship too, like that's a sort of ancestral healing too when your like family member comes through. It's even if they're just a guide, it's healing something, So I think that's really cool too and a part of ancestral like lineage, trauma, healing kind of
Yeah, I think so.
field.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially if you come to me like Amanda can then like remove whatever you need, like especially if it's affecting like an area of your life, like, and that's why it's so cool. What we do is like we just don't do the same
I
thing,
feel like you're the doctor
but it
and I'm
works
the
so well
surgeon,
together. Exactly. That's a really good way of
right?
putting it. I'm the doctor and you're the
Yeah,
surgeon. No,
exactly.
that's like dead
Yeah,
on.
you diagnose, I'll remove.
Yes, yes. So come get a consultation and we'll get you into surgery right away.
Exactly. Yes, energetic surgery. Come see us. Hope everyone's
Yes.
enjoying their kickoff to the new year. We are back
Yes.
officially, so this will come out and then we'll see you on the next one.
Yes. Have a great one.
Bye.
Bye.